Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our annual meeting. This will be recorded so that we can share with our members to view afterwards. So our agenda today is primarily to discuss our proposal for restructuring and reorganizing our board so that we can leverage more help with all the projects we would like to undertake. And then if anybody would like to nominate themselves to join the board, we'll conclude with that. Otherwise, we plan to make a campaign of recruitment through the rest of the year to get folks to join the board or a committee, which will be presenting the different committees in this meeting. And we hope to enlist as many of you as possible so we can accomplish much more than we previously have been able to. So first, I'd like to thank our outgoing members of the board. We have had two members who this year have stepped down from the board. So Matt Griebel, who was our treasurer. Thank you so much, Matt, for all the work you did, not only as treasurer, but really overseeing a lot of the renovation projects that we've undertaken over the past couple of years. Matt was really critical to a lot of those projects. Also, John Slider, who is an at-large member and who offered really great support and recommendations to the board. So thank you to Matt and to John for your service. And we hope we will find folks who will be able to step up and help us in your absence. So our current board is down to 9 members, and we're looking to get some more support over the next few weeks to help us accomplish our goals. My name is Mark Orris. I'm your president. Mark Beaton, who's on the line, thank you for serving as vice president all these years. Secretary Zaki Robbins. Christine Everson and Katie Evers have been handling membership. Katie is also our pool manager. But in addition to that, she serves on our board as a membership co-chair. Amy Miller has been handling our regular HHCA events. Randa Mukadem has stepped into the role of our communications chair, and then Ben Dangerink and Pam Lee have been serving as at-large members. Our current open positions, therefore, are a treasurer, and we would love to see somebody step into that role over the next few weeks to step into Matt's shoes. We're looking for others who would like to join either in an at-large position or to help represent one of our proposed new committees, which we'll be going through over the course of this meeting. So here, without further ado, we'd like to jump into our proposal for reorganizing ourselves and restructuring the board. The motivation for this is that, number one, we are a member-owned nonprofit. Therefore, it is up to us to oversee the board, to make the decisions regarding everything from capital improvements to membership fees and membership cap to events and everything else that happens. Everything that happens as part of this organization is done through the voluntary service of our board members and any other volunteers who assist us in this work. And what we've noticed over the past couple of years, especially now that we've wrapped up our capital improvement projects, is there's so much more we could be doing, not only for the pool, but also for our neighborhood, for our R&O, which we've newly expanded to include members of Hampden Heights West and beyond and their neighbors. And we could be doing more, but we just need more folks to come out and help us with that. So at the end of the day, it is up to us as members of the pool to coordinate and organize the running of the pool, but also the Neighborhood Civic Association and the R&O. As mentioned, most of you have probably seen we've expanded our boundaries of the registered neighborhood organization to include those who are bordering our current boundaries in Hampden Heights West. That was previously limited to 200 households in Hampden Heights West. And we've expanded that to include many households that are of a similar nature to our existing Civic Association boundaries in the direct vicinity of those areas. And the R&O work is typically very different, and we'll see what R&Os generally provide in terms of services. This has been something that has been somewhat on the back burner as we focused on running, operating, overseeing the management of our pool. And we would like to refocus our efforts and make sure that we're also providing those traditional R&O objectives. At the end of the day, the current board, the 9 of us, are committed to providing all essential services that would continue to operate and maintain the pool and the Civic Association. But we recognize that if we had a cadre of volunteers helping us, there's much more that we would be able to provide. And we really see an opportunity here in terms of restructuring to get others involved to help provide more services with a little bit less work and expectation of all of us. So here is what we're essentially proposing with the board restructure. We'd like to come up with a model in which board members are not expected to provide more than maybe 10 hours a month or so on average of service, and that we're limiting ourselves to 1 board meeting a month. We have been meeting twice a month during much of the preparation for the regular season, as well as during the season of the pool. We would like to limit this to 1 90-minute board meeting per month, and where the board members themselves are liaising with and representing one of the following several committees that we're proposing creating. And then those board members would primarily be responsible for overseeing the service of the members of that committee. And for committee service, we're expecting on average approximately 5 hours per month of volunteer work. And those folks will be working with the board liaison and the rest of the committee to advance each committee's particular objectives and deliver more to our community as a result. I provided here on this slide example incentives. These came from our feedback form, which many of you responded to. We're very grateful for the responses that we got. And we actually had a really positive response in terms of those who would be interested in contributing to either a committee or to a board, and we'll be sharing those results with you later in the meeting. If necessary, if we aren't able to get enough voluntary service for either the board or the committee, we explored the possibility of offering incentives, which would include possible discounts on membership for the Hampden Heights Swim and Sport Club. But we're kind of saving those as a last resort. In the event that we aren't able to otherwise fill these positions. But the response was really positive, and we're hoping that we wouldn't actually need to go to those lengths, but we will, if necessary, because we do think there's a lot more that we could provide. And I'll be sharing the results of those surveys, which showed strong support for the ideas of restructuring, for the ideas of having committees with voluntary service, but also showed a strong support of incentives if needed to ensure that we have the representation that we need. Here are the committees, therefore, that we have organized and decided that would be useful for the community. And I'll be going through each one of these in some detail to show the kinds of things that those committees would be responsible for undertaking. A new idea that we had was to have a financial oversight committee. So as I mentioned before, we do need a new treasurer, but the roles of the treasurer themselves are quite limited, especially if we can have folks stepping into these roles of financial oversight to help us with other things related to financial planning that are not necessarily the sole responsibility of the treasurer. And we've already had one volunteer step up for that committee, so we're very excited to initiate that new role for a committee. Existing committees or existing positions that we've had, they haven't really been run by committee, and we acknowledge that we could do much more if we had folks contributing to these responsibilities. Include membership, communications, and community events. These are things that are already ongoing, but have been approached with a sort of ad hoc approach, and we would love to see more people involved in helping us contribute these things. And I'll be going through each of these in the coming slides, the details and responsibilities that we would be able to provide if we had more support. New committees that we're proposing include a social committee, which would be not only social activities for the Hampden Heights Swim and Sport Club, but also social committees for our community. And then some committees that are more restricted to the pool itself, a pool and grounds committee, sports and recreation committee, Fundraising and sponsorships to help us keep our annual fees down by attracting additional funds to run our operating costs. And then, as I mentioned before, a more outright focus on traditional registered neighborhood organization activities and community outreach committees. So with that, I will go through the various committees and examples of things that we would be hoping to see from those committees. So first, let me start with financial oversight. As I mentioned, we do need a new treasurer, but that treasurer would not be working in isolation. We recently, over the past year or two, have hired a bookkeeper to help us manage our invoices and payments. So the treasurer would be responsible for working with that bookkeeper to make sure all those payments are being made. A general management of cash flow and reimbursements, as well as management of financial accounts, ultimately filing our taxes every year. That, again, we can use the services of a CPA to help us with that. We would not necessarily expect the treasurer to take that on their own. And then finally, to liaise with this new Finance Oversight Committee, which you can see on the right side, would help work with the treasurer to prepare a monthly financial statement for the board to review, make sure we're counting everything we need to and have an up-to-date picture of our financial situation, helping with strategic financial planning, which includes payments on our loan versus new investments, and other ways we might be more strategic financially. And this committee would also be a huge part of making recommendations to the board for determinations of our annual fees, our initiation fees, other fees associated with the wait list, guest passes, things like that. So this committee, if you're really interested in playing a role in helping us determine what our fees are, making sure that we're financially sound, this would be a committee where we would be looking for folks to volunteer and contribute to that. Again, for the committee roles, we expect not more than 5 hours a month of contributions, whereas for the board, not more than 10 hours a month. So this is a new committee. An existing representation that we've had is with membership. This team has managed our membership drive. They look through our wait lists. They make sure that we have all of our membership products up to date on our website. They respond to all membership inquiries. This is currently handled by Christine Everson and Katie Evers. But if we had more help, we'd be able to provide a little bit better service with respect to membership as well. Communications is really something we've recognized is a huge part of our job, and it's been very difficult for us to deliver as much as we could be delivering when it comes to communications. And we would really need a team to help us do this, especially as we focus not only on communications for the Swim and Sport Club, but regular communications for the Civic Association, for the Registered Neighborhood Organization as well. And when we get to the R&O committee slide, you'll see that there are many services that the R&O is intended to provide for the community, which include alerting folks to things like possible zoning changes, possible new businesses in the neighborhood, possible exceptions to zoning and permitting, transportation issues, safety issues, security issues. So we could really use much more help when it comes to doing some basic functions of communication. We would love for this committee to propose a editorial calendar by which we would have a well-paced structure to our communications, clear delineation between communications for folks who just want to receive information for the pool, the folks who just want to receive information regarding the neighborhood. And we would like for that committee to help not only the regular kind of weekly MailChimp emails, but also social media posts for the various groups involved there. We currently have primarily one website, which does have a page for our Civic Association, but we're exploring the possibility of having separate websites for different of these groups. The need to create graphics as we go along to advertise these things, and ultimately to collect feedback and implement surveys from our members to see what they need and how we can help meet their needs. Community events has been run by Amy Evans Miller. These are primarily limited to our 4 annual Civic Association events that are open to all members of our Civic Association. The Easter egg hunt, the 4th of July bash, the Fall Fest, and the Turkey Trot. All of these events take many hands to pull off. And it would be great if we had a regular force of folks devoted to helping Amy accomplish these events. And we also recognize that there could be additional community events that we might add to this that we could also provide, making it more of a year-round affair. And so we would love to have folks involved with those community events, which are open to everybody from the Civic Association, not just those events that occur at the pool. We've noticed that our pool and grounds require quite a bit of oversight. We contract out a lot of the work that happens on the grounds. So it would be useful to have folks overseeing that and also stepping in when they notice that something is in need of repair or in need of attention. This includes everything from managing our routine contractors, which are many. We have our landscapers who mow our lawns, and help with the servicing of our other plants and landscaping, our sprinklers, our trash and recycling, snow removal in the winter, which is something we need to provide, our internet access, etc. Also, just overseeing the furniture and maintenance of that furniture, replacing it when necessary, making recommendations for additions and replacements. Our grills, which are a perpetual challenge at the pool to keep clean and make sure that everybody's kind of maintaining those, as well as replacement of grills when they're just not working any longer. General oversight of building maintenance and repairs as they're needed. Management of security systems, which includes not only our new gates and their codes, but also the cameras that we have, security lights, towing of cars who are parked illegally, etc. Managing our signage. We've had a lot of new signage put up, and we will likely need some more over the years. And making sure that we're also adhering to public codes when it comes to things like fire, public health, specific equipment like our boilers, our filters that need to be certified sometimes every year. So that would be our pool and grounds committee. In addition to this, just any recommendations for improvements to the pool and grounds when we notice something might not be working, stepping up to help make sure that gets repaired. Sports and recreation, we have these brand new sports courts, and they've been actually very well utilized, but we would like to seek even more ways of ensuring that everybody has access, that we're making as much revenue as possible off of these. And so these folks would be devoted to ensuring that we have tennis lessons from our tennis pro every year, in addition to potentially other lessons for pickleball. We've even been offered things related to our beach volleyball court, etc. Making sure we're kind of utilizing all of this new space we have in an optimal way, whether that's through tournaments, leagues, or off-season use. So this committee would be devoted to maximizing the usage of our sports and recreation, not only our courts, but also our lawn, which offers other opportunities for organized recreation. A social committee, and this would not necessarily be limited to the pool, but it would definitely be also part of the pool. And we would like for this committee to be focusing on ways that now that we have this physical infrastructure invested in and developed, how can we make sure we're socializing as much as possible and really building that community and interacting. And we would love for these things to be free or low cost kind of ideas that would be kind of low hanging fruit, things like book clubs, walking groups, offering yoga at the pool, focusing on activities for youth in our neighborhood, and etc. So we would love for a committee that's just explicitly focusing on sort of social development, community development with regards to these types of events that are different from our big overall events that we offer every year. Also, recurring events that we've had at the pool, things like First Friday family nights, kids pizza nights, movie nights. The board has brought some of these back over the last couple of years, and we've been overseeing them, and we're just finding that it's harder and harder for us as a board to provide these things. We would love to see them go on. We'd love to add additional events like this with the help of our community. To help pay for a lot of this and help keep our annual fees down, we see tremendous opportunity for getting folks to come in and sponsor things like Kids Pizza Nights, First Friday Family Nights, to explore possible advertising revenues at our pool, which include our TVs that we have that advertise sponsors, to sponsoring events at the pool. We have an annual silent auction for the pool. We would love for a group of creative folks to join and help think of how we might generate more revenue from that, as well as looking to things like grants and fundraising opportunities. We got a new bike rack thanks to board member Ben Dengerink from a Denver City grant that paid for the implementation of that. So to explore those kinds of things or other fundraising opportunities, we tried hosting fundraising parties a couple times over the past few years. It was a pretty heavy lift, but we would welcome those kinds of opportunities as well. And this, again, would help keep costs down for membership to the pool. And then last but not least, we would like to get back into the business of a traditional registered neighborhood organization, which includes a lot of these items under the organize and relay information provided through the City and County of Denver. These are updates we get on zoning, planning and development, neighborhood safety and traffic issues, interacting with our local government, including our city council reps, both here in the district as well as at large, and other possible initiatives related to parks, green space, and beautification. We had a lot of folks indicate that these are services they would be interested in receiving, and also a lot of folks who said they'd be willing to step up and participate in such a role. So we would really love to be able to provide these services once again. Through our expansion of the R&O boundaries, we are now one of the largest registered neighborhood organizations in the City and County of Denver, which really gives us a great platform and a great voice to bring our issues of concern, issues of attention that we need in our neighborhood from our local government, as well as exploring possible community engagement and activities, including things like free little libraries, which you might see cropping up around town, and pantries, different service projects. We've had moments in the past where folks from the neighborhood were experiencing extreme hardship, such as fire of their house, for example, where we've helped assist with things like GoFundMe campaigns. So we would love to be able to offer those kinds of things. And with your help, we are confident that we would be able to. So that's a rundown of our ideas, some of which were presented in our feedback form. So I would like to now share the general results from that feedback form. We had about 100 folks respond overall, of whom about 70 were from the Swim and Sport Club. A really large response here of folks expressing interest in possibly joining a committee. So here we have 35 out of 69 respondents saying yes, they'd be interested in stepping into one of these committees at an expectation of service of about 5 hours or so a month. And honestly, if we ended up getting that amount of support, that would really help us pull off all of these things that we're talking about above. And I think we would have no problem meeting that. Similarly, for the board, we actually had 15 people express interest in stepping up into a role on the board. And again, if we had even half that, that would be a huge support and would really help us ensure that we're able to accomplish all of these goals that we're proposing. We mentioned before that if needed, we would be considering possibly offering some kind of incentive for the service. There was tremendous support for that as an idea if we need to. Again, I think we'd like to save that as a last resort. But at the end of the day, we do need folks to step up and into roles if we're going to offer all of these services, if we're going to continue to maintain the pool itself. So there is tremendous support in the event that we do need to start offering those things. 85% of respondents agreed with that, and almost half of respondents here, almost 10% said they would join immediately if they had such an incentive, and another 1/3 would be much more likely to step up into one of these roles if there was an incentive. That said, we would love to avoid that if needed. And we think we could take this all on with voluntary labor if we do have the people join us. So essentially, this is a pretty big call for help to help us overcome all of these challenges, to implementing all of these things we would like to do. The board is committed to maintaining the basic bare bones functioning of the neighborhood organization and the pool. But we just see tremendous opportunity to be able to do so much more if we have more hands helping us. And we would like to formalize all of that through the process of these committees. So at this point, I would just like to pause and take any questions or concerns that anybody might have. All right, I'm not seeing anybody step up, and that is totally fine. Just so you know, we will be sending out a recording of this, and we do plan to be following up with you all over the coming weeks through the end of the year. It's one thing to say you'd be interested in joining a board or joining a committee on an anonymous feedback form. It's another thing to kind of sign your name on the line. So we will be asking folks to actually commit to either a committee or to a board, and that will ultimately help us determine our path forward for how we can execute all of these ideas for the various committees. And with that, we will be closing. Before we do, if anybody would like to nominate themselves to serve on the board, I would be more than happy to entertain that. We do have a question from Jim Samasco about the loan and how much the loan balance is. I don't have the exact figures on that in front of me at the moment. We did end up taking out a loan to help us accomplish our capital improvement projects over the last couple of years. And Jim, I'm happy to follow up with you individually rather than misrepresent the current situation. I will mention that the loan is from Collegiate Peaks Bank. The vice president of that bank is a current member of the pool who is going to be serving on our finance committee. And we've been in communication with him, and everything is going just fine when it comes to the status of that loan. We do not at the moment feel a need to add to that loan, and part of the decision making of that financial services committee, along with the treasurer, will be to make recommendations to the board. For example, how much of that loan do we want to be paying off versus paying off over the years to come? Like, how much do we want to focus on repaying now at this time from our reserves versus how much do we want to leave that alone while we continue to make other improvements? But we would welcome folks who are interested in helping with those decisions to join our financial services committee. But we can share that information out with the community after this meeting. And with that, if anybody would like to nominate themselves to join the board, or if you're shy and you don't want to do it right now, we'd be happy to consider that at a later time. All right. Well, that is all that we have for you. We appreciate that many of you will be watching this on the recording. We look forward to hearing your feedback, your questions. Feel free to reach out to us at hhcabod@gmail.com with any specific questions. Otherwise, please look for more communications from us coming up soon. And please, if you're inclined to help us in any way, whether as a committee member or as a board member, please don't hesitate to reach out and to join us. Thank you, Amy Miller. A final reminder, every Thanksgiving, we have a 9 a.m. turkey trot 5K run through the neighborhood. So next Thursday on Thanksgiving morning, please gather shortly before 9 a.m. We'll provide donuts and coffee and route maps slash chalking of the route. And it's a really fun way to kick off your Thanksgiving. We usually have a really good turnout for that. So that'll be next Thursday, Thanksgiving morning at 9 a.m. Just show up at the pool parking lot and we'll start and end there. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for your attention, whether you're here live with us or if you're watching a recording, and we'll be in touch soon.